Hello, toms and hens and other fowl of an unusual persuasion. This is part 2 of our Gorgeous Turkeys series. So last time you saw us make, or you saw me make, this turkey here, which was a little more cartoony, definitely a little more simple. There's not a whole lot of details other than what was painted on and then glued on with paper. So we're going to step it up a little bit this time. We're going to go a little more detailed. We're going to try to go for a little more realism this time with this version. So this is today's version of our gorgeous turkey. Take a look at that. A lot of detail on this one, but definitely something that you guys can do at home as well. So before we get started, you'll need some materials. You'll need your gourd, as before. You will also need some pine cones. You'll need acrylic paints and a paintbrush, hot glue gun. You'll need other natural materials like say our dried corn here, and also the corn husks. I've already taken the ones off of these ones. Or you can buy the corn husks separately, like the ones that they use to make tamales. You can use those as well. So the last thing that you might need to copy what I have here is a piece of ribbon. This is kind of like a burlap type of ribbon, but pretty much use whatever you think would make this a beautiful turkey for yourself in your own artistic manner. So follow along, we're gonna get started here and I'll show you how to make your turkey. Okay, so when I started this project, I realized I didn't have any brown paint at all. And so instead of going to the store, what we can do is we can mix our own. So I have red acrylic. This one's a little metallic-y. It's metallic garnet red. I also had from old projects, I had a metallic Inca gold. So right there you have kind of like a red and a yellow that makes kind of like an orangey color. Well, if I didn't want it so red, I would kind of add a little bit of green. So I have some dark hunter green. I think this is evergreen. And also I would add a little bit of black just to make sure that I have the right darkness for my color there. So I'm mixing all of these two together and I'm going to try to match the color that I've already made here because I've already started painting, but I might need a little more paint. So I'm going to add some red. And a little bit of yellow. Probably a little bit more yellow than red just because we don't want it super red. We'll get kind of the tiniest amount of green. And then just a smidgen of black. And if you know anything about color theory, the colors that are on the opposite side of the color wheel will actually cancel each other out a little bit, so that's why we're putting in the green. So this is the gourd that I've already started painting. I'm using something to prop it up on because it doesn't really stand up by itself. And I'm going to work my way around painting it, letting it dry, and then maybe touching it up with another coat in an hour to cover up any spots that I might be missing. So we want the whole thing brown to have a good base, and then we can start adding details to make it look more like a turkey. So for this part I decided to make a huge mess and try to take off the little scales of the pine cone. I'm using scissors. If you can think of a better way than this, definitely try it because these things pop all over the place. Definitely be careful as you're cutting these if you want to use them to glue onto your turkey, since they will pop up and fly everywhere. And with the magic of filming, our mess is gone and we have a nice neat pile of the little scales from a pine cone. So what we're going to do is we're going to use these to look like wings on the sides of our turkey. So kind of like how wings are organized, usually they kind of layer one on top of each other. So we're going to start on like the bottom right and just kind of attach them in sort of like a wing shape using our hot glue gun. One thing to note about your hot glue gun, if you've never used one before, they tend to kind of dribble constantly once they're hot, and so just be mindful of that. Put something underneath, like that won't burn underneath it, just to be safe. And always be careful not to touch the tip of the hot glue gun. Very hot, can definitely burn you, so be careful with these. So we'll put a little tiny dab of hot glue and we will press it to our, okay, it's leaving me a long trail. We'll press it onto the side of our turkey. So right here. And also be careful if you're using really thin material with your hot glue gun. You can feel the heat through it once it's on there. This is thick enough that it's not really going to burn me if I press it. I'll keep going, kind of building up. My layers. If you do have enough pine cones, you could even kind of go all the way around. Just make it, give it like a 3D effect of, you know, the whole bird's feathers all the way around the body. I'll keep going like this for a while until I get 2 sets of wings on either side. Again, this guy's a little top heavy, or I guess round. We'll do that. Okay, so now both sides have pine cones that have been shaped kind of, or pine cone scales that have been shaped into wings on either side. So they're kind of slanted in the way that kind of wings are almond shaped. So we have some 3D-ness to our turkey on both sides. One thing we can also use our pine cones for is to make a beak. So we're gonna put this right in the middle of the face right here. I think that looks pretty beak-like. I don't think there's any other ones that are of a similar quality. So maybe I'll peel off that little section there and then we'll glue it. Just this end part right here. And I'll load it up because it's starting to shred a little bit. So we will bend it like this. Hopefully it will keep its shape. I think that looks really good actually. Other details that you might want to do is the little hanging part on the side of the beak, the wattle. Or you could do kind of like the beard right here. There's like a little section that sticks out on turkeys called the beard. It's just this weird straight tuft of feathers that comes out the front, so you could do that as well. We'll also use one of the corn husks and then go and paint it later so that we can make the wattle. So we'll kind of cut with scissors like a rounded piece that can kind of hang over. So right there, maybe a little smaller than that. I'll make this one a petite face with a small wattle. Like that. I will go ahead and pre-bend that a little bit so it has some shape there. And we'll go and glue that on. Okay, so we have a beak, we have a wattle, we have a beard, we have wings. The one big thing that we're missing is, of course, the tail. So that's where I think a lot of these corn husks will come in. We'll put them in the back like the big feathers of the turkey when the male turkey is strutting around. So we'll get each individual piece of these corn husks, kind of make them, shape them into the feather shape that we want, and then we'll just glue it to the back here, kind of towards the bottom, and they'll stick up pretty nicely. So I'll cut off some of this extra stuff back here, make it a little neater in the back. And we'll glue one. Let's start in the middle and work our way outwards. Well, that's not so much in the middle, but it'll work for me. Maybe we'll glue it up a little bit higher just to make it stick up a little bit better. There we go. Okay, so after gluing on all of the pieces of the tail, this is what we have. It's kind of a fan shape all the way around, like we want it to be if we want it to look more like a turkey. The other thing that I'm going to do is going to add in a little bit of detail work with paint after the fact, just to give it a little extra touch. So I'm going to put in some lines, some kind of scalloped lines around here to kind of look more like feathers, give it a little bit of extra detail there, and then probably paint the wattle red. You could even paint some of the corn husks if you want. Probably it would be best to do that before you glue them on, but however you want to kind of fancy it up will work. So we're gonna get our let's get some white paint, give it a little bit of dimension, and we'll put it here on our paper since I don't have a palette. Okay, there we go. This is kind of like an off-white, it's called vintage white. So we're gonna paint, I have a little brush here, so it's a lot easier to do some details. So I'm just gonna get a little bit on the paintbrush, and I'm gonna go just make the little scalloped edges. And these are kind of okay to be uneven a little bit, just because feathers are not necessarily super even. They do go in rows, but they're not always uniform in size. And then I'm going to go in with some black, just to kind of go in between our rows there. That way there's a little bit of contrast. We've got a lot of brown going on, so I wanted to have some more dimension and character. And turkeys do vary in colors, so you have a whole wide variation. You have some more brown monotone turkeys, they or monochrome turkeys, I should say. You have turkeys that are all white, and a lot of them are actually really colorful. So it's just a matter of what you want your turkey to look like. I'm gonna even color a little bit on the wings, just to give a little shadow. Maybe some black on the underside. Show that there's multiple types of colors in between the feathers of the wings. But I really like the color of the pine cone, so I don't want to cover all of that up. Okay, and we wipe off the brush a little bit, and then we will paint some red on the wattle. We're gonna get some red paint and paint the wattle. And I'm putting the paint directly onto my little paper mat here because why not? Less cleanup after, less utensils to wash. I can just wrap this thing all up and then toss it out when I'm done. So I'm gonna paint the wattle red, and And I didn't mention this on camera before, but we also, I also added 2 eyes. What I did was I glued on little tiny corn kernels onto the head here so we could have some eyes. I was trying to think of what kinds of natural things we could use, and since I have these little mini dried corn cobs sitting around here, I just kind of rolled a piece off and then glued it on. It did manage to take off a little bit of paint because I had a few unsuccessful attempts, so I might just go back and touch up the sides of that with some brown paint just to fill in. Okay, so we can leave it like this, or if we want, we can also put a little ribbon to kind of finish it off in the front here. So we can maybe put a little bow. Okay, so we want to add some ribbon, possibly, maybe make it a little embellished. So I would probably cut a piece maybe about this long, so you can kind of fold the 2 sides and make a ribbon shape. And just hold it like that, and then I would get your hot glue gun and put a dollop right in the back. And be careful if you have this type of ribbon because the heat will definitely go through on this. So press very carefully. Some of the glue might even pass through as well. And then we're gonna go tightly over it. So from one side, maybe just fluffing it up as you go so you don't get it stuck in a weird position once you glue it again. We're gonna just wrap it around until we get to a spot that we feel comfortable with. And maybe twist this one a little bit so it goes sideways. And then we're gonna put another little dollop right here. And we're gonna press the end of the ribbon down. This will be the back. Let that glue cure a little bit. We have a decent little ribbon here. The last thing I would probably do is grab some scissors and just cut a little triangle into the ends. That'll look a little fancier. I think that looks good. So we can stick this onto the front of our turkey. Have a nice little bow. And we're gonna hot glue that. So I put a generous amount. I really want that to stick well. And then press that on to the front. So there you have it. We have 2 gorgeous turkeys, one more cartoony, the other one has a little bit more of a naturalistic, artistic flair. So whichever one you want to try, totally up to you. You can do a whole lot with gourds, with paint, with glue, and lots of craft supplies. So go at it, have fun with it, and I hope you enjoy. So if you guys end up trying this, definitely show us, tag us at hashtag SSJCPL, and we will see your creations. So happy crafting, everybody.